Hi, I'm Calvin and welcome to Better. This series is for new players and focuses on the theory behind why we do the things we do and when we decide to do them. Last episode we took a look at the map All That Glitters. We talked about positions, basic strategies and some build openers. Today we're going to focus a bit more on the tech side. I'll take you through an example build and try to help make your first few attempts at this position a bit less painful. But before we go into the field, we need to do a bit of theory. So open your copybooks to page 17 and let's talk goals. The defining feature of the tech position is that you aren't required to spend any of your early resources on units, and as such you must use this privilege to support your team. This means building them T2 constructors, setting up an anti-nuke, and then growing your economy at a rapid rate so that you can pump out more powerful units at a point where they will have the most impact. But this isn't necessarily easy. Building 6 advanced metal extractors and 8 advanced construction bots costs something in the region of 10,000 metal. It's all too easy to handwave these requirements. After all, your team will pay for their own constructors, won't they? You can also self-destruct your commander for a bunch of metal, can't you? Sure you can, and that has no repercussions whatsoever. But here's the rub. You also need some 100,000 energy to make those advanced metal extractors and construction bots. So you'll need to spend some of that metal on energy production. Also, you exploded your commander, so now you have no build power, so you'll need to spend more metal and more energy on constructors to replace him. So now you have it all planned out. You're making lots of wind early on, you've built extra constructors and turrets to replace your commander, and everything is going fine. The wind speed is maxed out and you're ready to get your economy pumping. But you're not in a game full of experienced players that understand the importance of these things. You're in a noob lobby. Rather than 5 or 6 healthy transfers of 440 metal, you get nothing. You wait a couple of minutes and finally some donations come in, and just as they do, the wind speed drops to 3 and stays in that region for the next couple of minutes. Everything grinds to a halt. And by 20 minutes in, the game is over before you've even had the chance to produce a unit. This is the difficulty with the tech role. Not only do you need a solid plan that treads a fine line between all of the different energy, metal and build power requirements, but also you need to adapt to the kind of game that you're actually playing. Once you get later into the game, you also need to learn how to scale properly while still producing units. But if you can't even get the opener right, then most of the time you'll never even arrive at that stage. I've been searching for some sort of standard build to show you all, something that I can record in real time, but every single attempt I've made has ended in disaster. The first problem is the sparsity of T2 payments. In most of the low-level lobbies I've spectated, the tech player is unlikely to get more than 3 players sending any metal, and even when they do, they normally underpay. The second is leaks. It's not uncommon for a few ticks to find their way into the backline in the first couple of minutes, and perhaps a small number of light tanks a bit later. With no combat power of your own and no commander, these can be absolutely devastating. The third major problem is wind speed. The way wind is calculated in bar is somewhat counterintuitive. Glitters has a min wind speed of 0 and a max of 16, with an average listed of 11.9. Some of you might have noticed that this average is not a midpoint between the min and the max, but rather something else entirely. I won't bore you with all the details, but essentially every 15 seconds a new wind speed is calculated. However, it isn't a random number. It essentially takes the current speed, calculates an amount of drift which can be either upwards or downwards. However, if the drift would take it above the maximum, it's capped. This creates a situation where the wind moves around quite a bit, but once it does hit the max, it has a tendency to stay there for some time. Using the bar source code as a base, I wrote a script to simulate the wind speed over the course of a game to see why I was having so many problems. These are some of my results, focusing on the period between 5 and 10 minutes in the game where our energy requirements are the highest, but before we've had the chance to build a fusion reactor. You'll notice we get lots of lengthy periods of high wind speed, but it's also pretty common to get a segment of a minute or two where the wind speed is way below the average and our production would stall. Build energy storage, I hear you say. Indeed, that's what it's for. With the kind of spend we're facing, a storage will empty out if we get a single 15-second period of very poor wind speed. For longer periods we'll need more. These all cost metal. Remember what I said before, it's all a careful balancing act. If we're producing T2 constructors with our advanced lab and upgrading our mechs with a commander, a constructor and an advanced constructor, that's a draw of about 530 a second. On top of that, each mechs that we've upgraded costs 20 a second to upkeep, so we'll be using 530 energy a second while we're building the first one of these, but that's going to rise to 630 by the time we're onto the last one. These figures are all worth bearing in mind and should be used as a rough guide when figuring out how much energy generation you need. But before we go on to the build, we need to talk about those goals. If you've had a look around for advice, you've probably seen a lot of talk about the time the T2 lab is ready, or perhaps the time that the first APHIS is complete. I think for a brand new player those are all pretty useless metrics, so instead we're going to throw them away and use our own. So our first objective is to not die. It might sound a bit obvious, but you will be surprised how many people carry on blindly while imminent death approaches their base. After that, we're going to focus on 4 timings. Creation of T2 constructors for all of our team, deploying a little help to the front line, completing our anti-nuke, and also when our first T3 unit is completed. I spectated a bunch of low-ranked games to get an idea on the sort of timings we need to beat. Distribution of T2 constructors generally completes at around the 11 or 12 minute mark. There were a few outliers where this was faster, but these were generally in games where something out of the ordinary happened. For example, in one game the tech player was donated a massive bunch of metal, and in another game the tech player took 2 additional metal spots and the wind was uncharacteristically high. These low-ranked tech players generally finished producing a bit of help for the front line between 12 and 14 minutes. Anti-nuke production was really slow. The earliest I saw was at 17 minutes and the latest was never. Finally, the first T3 units were generally completed somewhere between 21 and 24 minutes into the game. So now that we've figured out our build power, metal and energy production needs, and we've looked at our goals, let's jump into a game and work out a build for your first time in the tech position. Okay, so we're not going to replicate some sort of super high precision build. What we're going to just try and do is think about the things we spoke about in the theory part of this video and put some of them into practice. So we're going to get 3 metal extractors up here, we're going to get our another one up here, then we're going to put down a couple of solar collectors because wind is horrible. Then we're going to need a bot lab, and then let's have another solar collector because we will need some early energy. We can reclaim these later for their metal, that's not a problem. We're going to queue up our next metal extractor. Now this is obviously an AI game, as you can see from the AI written everywhere, but I've tried to set the thing up to give us a sort of realistic example of what an inexperienced lobby might look like. So now our bot lab's up, we're going to get out a couple of construction bots because we need build power. We're going to get our pawn because we want a bit of defense, and a Lazarus and another construction bot. Then our commander's going to go over here and he's going to go and build this metal extractor. Then once that's done, his job is to build wind turbines. We're going to queue a load of these up and an energy converter because remember we need 2 or 3 of those in case the wind's horrible to us. And now that our first construction bot's out, it's going to go down here and it's going to build this metal extractor on this spot. And the next one that comes out, I think the best thing for that to do is probably to come over down here somewhere. We know we're going to want a couple of early energy converters so it can do that. And then I think that bot can go into a construction turret and we'll place it here so it can touch 4 of our metal extractors at once. We've now built a pawn. You don't obviously have to build a pawn. I like a pawn. You never know when a pawn's going to come in handy. In low level games you often get lots of leaks, things nipping past the front line, especially early in the game, and your commander moves very slow. So having a little pawn that can run around and pick up any scouts is, not the worst thing you can do. And we're going to trade this bot to our air player by building his metal extractor in the queue, double clicking to trade, and then that'll go over there. Oh, looks like we have some scouts, but it shouldn't be a problem because we can run our pawn in. And then we've lost a metal extractor over here, but we can resurrect that with our Lazarus. This will be quite fast because Lazarus has got 300 build power, so this will be back up in operation pretty quick and won't slow us down too much. And now our Lazarus can go and eat this bit of metal over here, this metal over here, and our bot lab, because we won't need that. Then it can eat this other junk on the field, anything laying around, and then eat our metal extractors. And now we can queue up some more wind turbines for our commander. And let's queue up another one of these as well. And we've got an extra bot, so this bot can come along and he can help our first construction bot get a construction turret up for some more build power. Now we are going to want some extra metal, which we don't have, so what we're going to do is we're going to ask our air player to pay for it a bit early. So we're going to say, Air, can you pay for T2 at about 5 mins, please? There we go. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you want metal at a certain time, sometimes it's a good idea just to remind people that these kind of requirements exist. We're going to need more turbines, so we're going to build some more turbines over here. Oh, looks like we have some more leaks from the front line. We can hear the sounds of destruction as some tanks rush through and come straight for us to try and kill us. This would normally be very bad, but because we didn't self-destruct our commander, because we want to play safe, this is a new player lobby, we've got load of energy so we can send our commander down, de-gun all of those things to death, and then we can carry on with whatever we're building. So we need another energy storage. Oh, looks like we're about to overflow metal there, so we're going to stop this reclaim just for a second. And that means it's time to pour a load of build power into our Tech 2 lab. Note the fact we've got loads of metal, but with a commander on it and a construction turret, that metal is going to burn down in seconds. So then we can just give our reclaim orders back to our bot. It's about 5 minutes, so we're going to represent being paid by our air player by reclaiming one of these decoy fusions. Now that's only 370 metal, but in a new player lobby we don't expect people to pay the full amount of money, so we're going to do that. And also we're going to use our construction turret to eat one of our solar collectors. We're going to check our turbines. We've got 30, but we know we kind of needed around 40. So we're going to queue up another, I don't know, let's queue up another 9 here. And that will make sure that we have plenty of energy. We've also got a little bit spare and we're not spending it. Can we reclaim anything else? No, not quite now. We're still waiting for our Lazarus to come and eat several things up. That's not a problem. We can ask our team, pay for T2. And then hopefully some of them will pay for T2 and that will get us our constructor out a bit quicker. What we're going to do to represent this, we're going to represent one more payment here by eating another decoy fusion. That's another 370 metal. And then we are going to ask our air for a light trans, please. We do that. And then hopefully we'll ping our air player with that. And then hopefully he'll build us a light transport, send it over. Now what we can do is we can start our first metal extractor building. Pop all of our build power on this so this is nice and quick. And then we'll queue up another bot. And then we're going to take this bot. We're going to queue up the metal spots for our air player. We're going to trade it to him. We're going to right click to pick it up with the transport. Press U and hold shift to drop it off. And then with shift held again, we're going to right click to move back. And then that will give the bot to our air player. Lovely. Now, we don't have a bot at the moment because we've just given it away, but we have plenty of build power here, so we're going to have another one any second. So it's going to come up and build our next metal extractor. And we can use all of our build power to make sure that comes in nice and quickly. There you go. And then we'll queue up another one for the next player. Now hopefully about this time we'll get a third payment. We're not going to go for a fourth, we're just going to assume that 3 people are going to underpay. And that's all the metal we're going to get donated from our team. But there's no point being stubborn, you just make do with what you've got and do the best you can. So the metal's going to help us because this is about the time we need it the most. So we're going to just use that extra metal we've got to make sure we can get these metal extractors up nice and quick. Use our turret to help, and use our bot to help, and then we can give this away to the next player. So who that's going to be, Taylor over here. We'll queue up his metal extractors for him. We'll double click the trade button, pick the bot up, We'll put the bot down and then we'll bring our transport back, just as we did before. And we've got another one here. Now this guy's pretty close, so it's easy for us. We can just send him over here walking. We don't have to do anything complicated. And then we can get a new bot on the build. Make sure that comes out nice and quickly. Let's trade that to him. And then that would have gone over there and built his extractor. Now our metal is going to start piling up for the moment. So after this bot, we're going to get a couple of butlers out to give us a bit more build power, I think. So we're going to send our advanced construction bot down here. It's a bit slow and our metal is building up, but say, not a huge problem. Plenty of room for improvement. We're just kind of winging it and seeing how we can go. So we're going to start that building. And then what we're going to do, we're going to pick up our bot and we're going to pop it over here and start this one as well. And then we can trade off this bot to our next player. That's Jonathan Crimson over here. Trade it with him. We'll pick it up and we'll put it down and we'll bring our transport back. And then we'll start this metal extractor here and use our turret to help us. Now I've got another bot. We're going to send this bot over to this final metal extractor before we trade that off. And then we're going to send all our build power up there to go and help with that. And then we can trade this bot off because we don't need that anymore. So that's going to go to Prime Federation over here. Remember, build the metal extractors because they're going to be busy. So queue them up for them. Trade it over. Pick it up. Pop it down. And then bring your transport back. Lovely. Another bot here. That's good. That can go for Mauser. So we'll queue them up. And then we'll trade the bot like that. And then we can tell our transport to pick that up and put that back down and bring that over. And then our final bot we're going to keep for ourselves over here. And we're going to use this bot to give to the last player over here. So we're going to trade that off. There we go. That goes to this player here. Grab our transport, pick the bot up and put the bot down. Lovely. Everything is going super smoothly. So now it looks like it's time to get a fusion reactor up. So let's build ourselves a nice fusion reactor. I think we'll build it here. This seems like a good a place as any. We can use our butlers to help. We've got plenty of metal we can burn through pretty quickly. So this fusion reactor should come up nice and quick. Now note the fact that we are only 10 odd minutes into the game. We've got T2 bots given to all of our team. They've got all their metal extractors upgrading. That's going to help them greatly. But we are going to need to help the front line in a second. So we're going to ask our air player for a heavy trans, please. There we go. And then hopefully he'll go ahead, queue up a heavy transport. And then that'll be ready for us when we need it. We are spending a lot more metal than we're using. So we're going to tell these two butlers to stop building. And instead they're going to go and start building a load of energy conversion. Because we'll need that once our fusion reactor's online. So that will save us a little bit of time. We've still got a bit more metal than we can spend, so we're going to start building a Fat Boy. Fat Boys are amazing. If you can only have one T2 arm unit, you probably want a Fat Boy. So if you're going to donate one very powerful unit to the front line, the Fat Boy is a great choice. So what we're going to do after this fusion comes up is we're going to build this Fat Boy for our front line, and that should help them do the fighting. They might need it offensively, they might need it defensively, whatever that is, we'll provide it. So we'll queue up this next fusion reactor as soon as that comes out, and then we'll make sure all of our build power goes and builds that. Hopefully we'll be given a heavy transport by our air player. We can use this to move the Fat Boy up to wherever the problems are. If the problems are in the canyon, we can maybe put it on the roof here. If the problems are this side of the canyon, we can maybe pop it on the top here and it will shoot down and blow loads of things up. So if we think about our timings and our clock, we have kept ourselves alive, we've defended ourselves with a pawn and with our commander, we have helped out the front line, we've distributed T2 constructors to everyone, and now the last really important thing we have to do is get an anti-nuke launcher up. So we're going to come down here and we're going to build that around here. Is that in range? No. We're going to build that just in range of that construction turret. And I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to switch over, before we finish that fusion, we'll leave one bot on it so it doesn't break. And let's get this anti-nuke launcher up nice and quickly. I think we'll need some more build power, so let's queue up another couple of butlers. Now our anti-nuke is going to come up about 14 minutes. On this map, you can get nuked around 14 minutes, I think, if people work hard enough. But in a new player lobby, I don't think that's going to happen. So as long as your anti-nuke's up around this time, you should be pretty safe. So what we're going to do is finish this fusion up. Tell a couple of these butlers to come over here and start building some more energy conversion. We'll have a nice big wedge over there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to queue up our next fusion reactor. And I think we're going to need some more build power. So what we're also going to do is we're going to tell our construction bot here to come and build 3 more construction turrets. Maybe as many as 7 more construction turrets. So what we're going to do is tell our commander to assist the bot and they'll come up a lot quicker. And now this wind's going to start getting in the way. So we're also going to use our Lazarus to start reclaiming these wind turbines, because we'll get the metal back. We can spend that on fusions and other things. So he'll very slowly but surely go through and just start reclaiming all this stuff we do. And at the same time, our construction units here will be getting the fusions up. Now if you look, we are not producing energy converters quick enough really to use all of the energy that's coming in, especially when this fusion completes. So now we've got loads of construction turrets doing the building. We're going to pull these 2 off and they're going to come and build another nice big wedge of energy converters over here. We're building them away from the rest of our base so they don't blow anything up, but we're making sure we don't go too close to the air player or the guy on our right, just because we don't want to get all up in their space. You can see we're spending metal at twice the rate we're earning it. That means we've probably got plenty of build power, which is good. And it means that the second this fusion reactor is up, we can go straight into the next one, which we're going to do. And we'll queue that up. There we go. And then these construction turrets are all in range, which is nice. We can check the ranges and we can see that when we want to build more fusion, we can build another row next to it and that won't be a problem. And we're just going to keep building fusion reactors at this point. We're not eating our T2 lab, even though that will give us more metal to do building with. We don't know what's going to happen on the front line. Things might change and become very bad, and we might suddenly need to produce a load of units. And if we don't have this, and if we just have fusions, we are going to seriously struggle. So let's move our constructor over here, get the next one of these up. Should build nice and quick. Our income is scaling now quite nicely. As we get more fusions built, our energy goes up. Our energy converters are turning all that excess energy into metal, and that's making our economy go faster and faster. And then we're going to go through and we're going to get another fusion reactor going. I haven't bothered with any advanced fusion reactors yet. The problem with advanced fusion reactors is they take a very long time to build and you don't get any return on them until they're complete. Whereas these fusions build in a third of the time or something like that, and we can start turning that energy into metal pretty quickly, which is why we're scaling quite quickly. I do switch to advanced fusion reactors after a time, probably after I've got, say, 7, maybe 8 fusion reactors up. Whenever my income, when I'm not building, is sitting around the 150 mark, I think that's quite a good time to build advanced fusions. But now we want some units because we've just sat here and done nothing for a long time. So we're going to get a gantry up. And now we can reclaim our T2 lab because we're going to have a different structure available to us if we need to do some rapid building. This should complete in the next few seconds. And then what we're going to do is we're going to queue up 12 Marauders. Everybody loves Marauders, they're excellent fun. They might not be massively powerful in terms of damage or health, but they are incredibly fast and that makes them very, very good to get out at this sort of time in the game. So what we will be doing, we'll be building a bunch of these. We'll be looking at the front line. We'll be looking for an area where ideally our team is doing quite well, but they can't just crack the opponent. So then what we do is we take a big bunch of Marauders and drive it straight through that open hole. We can get all the way around behind the enemy, do loads and loads of damage, and even if it doesn't win the game, it will generally put our team on a very good footing. Now, getting a load of marauders out at 20 minutes in the game is nothing to write home about. If you were in a higher level experienced lobby, you'd be seeing far more precise and more optimised play than this. But remember, you're a new player, you're going to be in a new player lobby, and this is one of the first times you've ever played the tech position. If you manage to crank out a big bunch of marauders at around 20 minutes in the game and put them into action, you'll be pretty happy with the results, I promise you. And then the next thing we'll focus on is just getting a couple of advanced fusion reactors up, and then we'll be building units and then advanced fusion reactors and just sort of scaling as we build units. What we'll be doing at some point is reclaiming these fusion reactors probably and turning them into more advanced fusion reactors. And then things will just go from there. Okay, I think that's enough of that. But before I go, I'll just leave you with a few final points. Don't worry about flawlessly recreating a perfect build. You're a new player, you'll be in a lobby full of low rank players, and those games tend to be very unpredictable. Focus on doing the things that will help your team find victory. Distribute those T2 constructors, help your front line, build an anti-nuke, and don't wait too long before you start to commit units to battle. Once you're comfortable with all of this, then you can work on your optimizations. Fine-tune the things you build, where you build them and when you build them. Experiment with good times to self-destruct your commander and reclaim him and your T2 lab for the extra metal, and then build a plan that takes advantage of that. Finally, pay attention to the front line. Provide them the things they need at the right times and don't just sit in your own little SimCity minigame at the back of the map. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button, and if you've got any questions then pop them in a comment or on the Discord and I'll do my best to reply. And as usual, if you want more of this sort of thing then subscribe to my channel and I hope to see you back for the next one.